Happy Tuesday, and welcome to Section 2, Lesson 3 of The Great Gatsby. So, yesterday we read Chapter 3, so today we will talk about Chapter 3 and do some assignments. So, first thing we went through, we're going to discuss a few questions. We did this in class. Now, we need to understand that Chapters 2 and 3, Nick is quite intoxicated. So that's going to affect his perception of what is happening and all the events and the people speaking and moving about him. Now, pages 43 through 45, we hear a bunch of rumors about Gatsby. Now, we're at a Gatsby party, but we do not see Gatsby himself, and it seems that no one knows who Gatsby is or what he looks like or how he got his money. So, naturally, people come to his house and enjoy all of his free party attractions, and then they talk about him and the things that he could possibly be involved in. Now, the partygoers' perception of Gatsby is kind of mysterious to them. They enjoy talking about him because it's fun to kind of try to figure out who Gatsby is and how he got his money. But it seems that they don't have much respect for him. They enjoy the parties. Now, Nick, when he perceives Gatsby, he finally meets Gatsby, and he almost perceives him as someone who's trying too hard to impress him. He talks about how his speech, he seems to be thinking about everything he says before he says it, and his speech is so formal, it almost seems ridiculous. Now that doesn't mean he doesn't like Gatsby. He enjoys Gatsby, and he thinks he's interesting. Now, him meeting Gatsby for the first time, it's quite positive for him. Remember, he's been going through the party, and people have been talking about Gatsby and trying to meet him and all of these rumors. So it's exciting for Nick to get to meet him and actually see him. He also thought Gatsby would be some old man, but he's not. He's very young, very close to Nick's age, actually. Now, Gatsby's physical appearance, Nick sees him not as a typical rich guy in that he looks as if he probably works in some physical labor or has done that before in his life. So he's not just sitting around as if like the old money people would. Now, his way of speaking, Nick is pretty critical of this because, like we said before, he speaks in a way that he's trying to be too formal. Now, Jordan, what she says about Gatsby, she talks about his parties and how she likes that he throws big parties because at small parties you don't get any privacy. She also has some ideas about Gatsby, but her perception of him is rather positive and almost exciting. And this is when Nick first meets Gatsby and what he looks like. He says, I was looking at an elegant young roughneck. Think of like a hard worker, almost like a ranch hand in a suit. Very nice suit. They look nice, but you can tell they didn't spend their life in a suit. A year or two over 30, so very young, whose elaborate formality of speech just missed being absurd. And this is where he talks to us about how the way Gatsby speaks is kind of ridiculous. Now, the last thing you're going to do today is add to your perception chart. So these are the things that you need to add to your chart. Now, your perception chart should have all of these things added to it. So the other day in class, we added these two. I've put in the people and who they're perceiving, and some of them I put in page numbers where you can find evidence. But your job is to have your chart filled up to this point. So you should have all of these things. And on Thursday, I'm going to do a check. You don't turn it in, but I'll go in Google Classroom and make sure you're on track and you're adding to your chart. So you should have all of these things in your chart. And I'll know that you have them. If you watch the video, you see them here. So make sure when you're adding to your chart, these are all things that you have in there. All right, and the last side, we're going to add to the symbolism chart. I don't think we've put anything on the symbolism chart yet, so this will be our first occurrence with the symbolism chart. And you're going to use this question to help you. What does the man with the owl eyes say about Gatsby and his parties? So this is the drunk guy in the library. What does this reveal about his perception of Gatsby? So if we go and we look for our symbolism chart, there are two sections on this chart. The first one is reference to vision or eyes. So the example given to you is when we first talk about the billboard in chapter 2. And then you're going to explain. So it says this quotation is describing an advertisement. It was once an advertisement for an eye doctor, but is now faded and seems to be watching over the people of the Valley of Ashes. So for the owl eyes, you're going to find a quote. Make sure you put a page number where owl eyes is described. And you think about owls. What do owls symbolize? Often owls can symbolize wisdom. So think about that when you explain your evidence and what Owl Eyes is talking about and what he says about Gatsby. So you're just adding one thing to the symbolism chart. And that is it for section 2, lesson 3. Make sure you're doing your bell ringers. They're due this Friday. Also,